All right, good morning, everybody. It's 11:30. We'll get started with our pre-commission agenda. No president's report for me today. Are there any general housekeeping items or discussion of the agenda from the commission? Commissioner Nielsen.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for answering my questions. For the benefit of the other commission members, the Americana work, I want to make, it's one of the things I think I know the answer, but to be safe, I asked the question to make sure we coordinate with the float season, those little issues. And then the State Street, we have such a long partnership history with VRT and others on that corridor. I just want to make sure, and Diane assuage my concerns that we will be coordinating closely with VRT throughout that whole design process, that they will have a representative on the project team. I just want to make sure that the transit service on State Street, make sure that it is per the TTOP is going to be what we envision it to be after it be incorporated into the design process. I think the only other, I did have a question regarding the item 9 that I thought of this morning on the data center regarding the stormwater, the water. Is that drainage water that we are helping accommodate, or I don't know what a water blow off flushing pond is. I'd love to know what, or is that part of the industrial process? I'm just trying to understand what we are accommodating. If that's a normal or if that's an unusual service we're providing.
Thank you, Madam President. Commissioner Nielsen. Yes, that is a normal, but we don't see it very often.
Okay, thank you. That's right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I think we're turning it over to Director Head for the director's report.
Thank you, Madam President, Commission. Did hear you were called Madam Mayor yesterday, so I'm not the only one. I'm grateful. No, it's a wonderful opportunity to visit with you again today and to share with you some of the things that are going on from our operations side. I also will be sharing my time with Jennifer, who has an update for you on the environmental lab and that project moving forward. But first, we wanted to introduce you to some new faces in our audience and on our team. We have 5 new employees that joined us over the last couple months. Some we missed last month due to snow call out and some other projects and things. But you see here just some wonderful team members who have joined us. Some team members who have returned, as well as who just bring great experience. I'll note, Hannah Schaefer will be our second bicycle and pedestrian program coordinator, with Meg McCarthy having moved on to a different employment there. We're really excited to have Hannah, who comes with a lot of leadership and nonprofit experience, as well as work on bicycle and pedestrian program areas. I'll also highlight Trisha Burns, who comes to us from Boise State University with about 25 years of experience in their leadership, their professional development program. I hope she's okay if I quote her, but she said if there was any place that I would go and that would make me want to leave, it was ACHD. And so we're pretty excited to have her bring with her those great skills. We're also really excited. Frank's returning to us. He previously was with us and saw how wonderful ACHD is and wanted to come back, and we're excited to have Phil and Chris joining our teams. We're so grateful. We hire the best, and we really do believe that, and our team members come with that attitude and jump right in, and so we're excited to see all of these professionals get to work. Just wanted to update you as far as, I know there was a question last week about implementing our impact fee program and if we're ready to go. We did have a meeting last week with our partners. We had about 20 representatives from Boise, Kuna, Ada County. All were invited, but these were the agencies that did show up for that. We will continue to outreach to the others who weren't here. But we had a great training preparing for the implementation as they collect those fees for us. And these obviously are some of the larger players in that conversation. And so had a great meeting last week. And so thanks to Megan, Brian, and Cynthia for their great work there. Also wanted to say thank you to the City of Eagle for yesterday's joint meeting. We believe it was a great conversation, a good partnership. They showed appreciation for the opportunity to work with us. Following the meeting, Tom Laws was interviewed for the mayor's podcast, and so keep a lookout for that. But we're always grateful for the opportunity to join with our partners to talk about how we're serving each other and to demonstrate that. We are closing up our initial public outreach on the 5-year plan. You have here the results over the last 3 weeks. This does close tomorrow, so should end pretty close to this. We have had quite a bit of feedback, quite a bit of engagement, over 3,300 webpage views. So people who are interested are looking at it and are looking to see what the plan is and how they can engage and support that. A few projects have risen to the top. I won't steal the thunder of the team for when they come back and present those things, but as soon as this closes, we'll share all these comments with the cities so that they have it in time for them to consider as part of their request list to ACHD. Oh, it's literally snowing. I love that. So we've had quite a bit ongoing from a winter ops over the last 2 days. We've had about 16 trucks out yesterday and today doing pre-treatment. Nothing's really stuck down in the valley, which is always good in terms of operations goes. Seen some up in the foothills, but the team continues to be working hard, treating where we can, getting things ready to go for in case the storm turns for the worse. All right, with that, I'm going to turn time over to Jennifer Berenger, who's our Deputy Director of Business Operations, who's going to talk a little bit more about our Stormwater Lab.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners. For the record, Jennifer Berenger, Deputy Director of Business Operations. Before I start in on my slides, I wanted to take a quick second and introduce Stephanie Tanis. She is our new Senior Project Manager for this project, so you'll be seeing more of her in the future updates. Okay, so first off, just wanted to remind you, we were here in front of you about 2 months ago to talk about the requirement for the lab operation. So this is just a little bit of a reminder of what we talked about a couple of months ago, that the Boise City Water Quality Lab is shifting some of their operations, so they'll no longer be able to support all of our stormwater sample preparation. So that is driving the requirement onto ACHD for us to take that responsibility on. And we had the opportunity as we were demolishing the old kitchen in this building to carve out that space for the lab. So it was just ideal timing for us, but we are on a very fast timeline to get it done. So what we approved was a current project with McIlvaine to do the rough-in of the spaces while we developed the requirements that we needed for this new controlled environment lab space. So we've been working with the architect on that. And I wanted to show you a little bit about what it is we're talking about here. So the splitting room is one of the main requirements that we're adding into our lab space. So it's a controlled environment. It's not like a high-end lab with all of the bells and whistles. It is just the bare minimum that we need to have a controlled environment to split our stormwater samples. So this includes, I've got the list there, sample compositing, splitting it, filtering, and preserving those samples before we deliver them to the water quality lab for their testing. We'll have to do the cleaning of the containers before and after the splitting, and then do some precursory analysis of the bacteria in the samples. So basic things that we need, but having somewhat of a controlled environment so that we know we're not contaminating the samples within the building from what has been collected out from our stormwater. So a couple of the requirements that we've identified that make this a little bit of a unique space. We need to minimize the use of metals. We have some exceptions for air handling, specifically some HEPA filters, and then floor and ceiling finishes that have like a hard lid ceiling instead of the grid that you see throughout the rest of the building, and the floor to be able to handle some of the acids being used to clean the sample containers. We've been working with the water quality lab, and our layout's going to be very similar to what they have there. So these photos that we're showing are from the visit that we took to the water quality lab to help us to identify what we do need to bring into our lab space and what might be more than what we need. So this is just a basic kind of layout. It's a fairly small space, about 15 by 20 feet. And the lab cabinetry is plastic, 'cause I mentioned the minimization of metals, things like light fixtures, and some of those little peculiarities that just help to prevent any contamination of the samples from the ionization in the air, but more importantly, with the use of some of the acids that we use, preventing the corrosion on the metals in the space, so the longevity of the space. As a reminder, we did bring before you the current contract with McIlvaine, which was about $388,000, and that included predominantly the demolition of that old commercial kitchen in this building, and then roughing in some spaces, putting a wall between the space. It's the new walls, the fire suppression, HVAC, and plumbing and electrical stubs only. So as we're now defining that revised architectural plan for that lab side, we're looking at, I've got a very large range because we're still working on getting the architectural plan so that we can get the cost estimate from McIlvaine to understand what it's going to cost. So I've got a large estimate here just because we don't know where exactly it's going to land. It's going to require a little bit additional with the plumbing for some additional sinks. As I mentioned, the HVAC requiring some HEPA filters and some of those finishes. And then we'll have the cabinetry, lab equipment, hood, those things that'll be owner supplied to put into that space. So looking for every opportunity to minimize any unnecessary costs and have just what we need to get the job done. So I do want to tell you what the status is. So that big, the first photo that we showed is on the upper left. That is the old kitchen mid demolition. And we got all of that old equipment out, including that old hamburger that was sitting on the grill. And, through the demolition, there were things that we found that we didn't foresee, like the flooring had big kind of holes in the flooring where the old freezer was and some of their stuff. So there's some work to do to remediate that and flatten out the spaces. But we've completed that demolition, and now the rough-in has started. And the bottom view there on the bottom right is that L-shaped space that we have for the environmental receiving area and the splitting room. So that's where we're going to start to see the magic happen on building out the lab. My next steps are a little bit out of date. So we had hoped to receive the updated drawings from the architect yesterday. We are still waiting on those. So I anticipate some of these dates might shift a little bit to meet the reality of when we receive those updated drawings. But as soon as we get the updated drawings from Studio H, then McIlvaine, our CMGC, will be working on their cost estimate with their subs. And then we anticipate either on the meeting with you on the 4th or the following week, we'll have the change order for review and approval. With that, then we'll make our budget adjustments and second budget adjustment, and completing of the lab in September is still the goal for the overall timeline. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thanks, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer?
Madam President,
Commissioner Pickering?
Jennifer, thanks for the update. I've been wondering how it's been going. Could you just give us and the public a backstory or context as to, so where are our folks currently operating, like in our existing lab, and like what, assuming all of this goes well, like what would be the transition out of what we're currently using into this new facility?
Yes, thank you. Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, the environmental folks are still using the lab at our old Adams facility. And lab might be a strong word, but it's where they're kind of collecting bringing some samples. But for the most part, when they go out, those samples are still being done at the Boise lab. So we are still using the space. It's on one of the outbuildings at our old Adams headquarters building, which is a great space to continue to use. It's a relatively new space. So they are here in this building and working out of that space as well.
And by Boise Lab, you mean?
The Boise WQL, the Water Quality Lab,
Okay,
down
yeah.
by the watershed.
So we're using two different facilities.
We use yes. So they're here in our headquarters building as desk space,
Mhm.
but when they're out in the field, their equipment is still based at the old our old headquarters building.
Right. So this will be a really great opportunity to consolidate and make sure that, again, like travel time, all of that hoopla is reduced or removed entirely because we're going to be bringing them on the site. Okay,
Yes.
thanks, Jennifer.
Commissioner McKinney?
Yeah, Jennifer, just a quick question. Why did we decide to do this project via a change order? Change orders are notoriously expensive, as opposed to simply taking this as a separate item, having it designed and put it out to bid. Would it not have been, I don't know, from a cost standpoint, wouldn't it have been advisable to do the latter? Tell me our reasoning on that.
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, yeah, we had McIlvain already working in the building, so you save a lot of money on the redeployment of sorts. So they've already got their connections working in other parts of the building. So being able to do it as a change order and have them just continue into the space that they've already been kind of working on, it was just a seamless movement to be able to allow us to start that new work with limited delay. And we already had the contract mechanism. If we had to wait for all of the requirements to come in to do an RFQ and put it out for bid and bring in somebody else potentially, we wouldn't even be where we are right now on the demolition of the space and being ready to meet that deadline for the September cutover.
So is it the deadline that's kind of pushing this, that to do it a different way would have not allowed us to meet the deadline to have this change done?
Madam President, Commissioner, I think it was just a good opportunity. Without having I've got a director head behind me to assist with this, but it would be speculative to say that going out for bid would have been cheaper. I think bringing in a CMGC that we've been working hand in hand with all aspects of the building is highly valuable. They understand everything with the HVAC system in this building, and it's a space, kind of a corner of the space that they've already been working in. They've been working on getting our fire requirements for the entire building pulled together. So having a contractor who understands who it's all piecing together so that we can still meet even our phase 1 and phase 2, 3 occupancy, it all feeds together.
Madam President, Commissioner McKinney, and Jennifer's doing a great job answering that question. Yeah, the timing is important. I think maybe something that's different on this project compared to a roadway project. A change order on a roadway project is based on the original contract. With a CMGC contract like we have with McIlvain, everything appears like it's a change order, but it's almost a new contract. Each time we bid with them, we have them on staff. They're overseeing that. They're doing all that. They go out and it does go to bid. So they go out to bidders. They get the best price for us. They have to follow the same requirements that we do when it comes to getting bids. And then they contract that piece out. So they're managing the contract like we would typically for a roadway project. We manage with the general contractor who then hires subs. In this case, they're doing that contracting on our behalf. So it appears like a change order, but it's not necessarily the same kind of change order as you would have with a road construction project.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I have a question.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. So yeah, this is a interesting project in that you're going to have a different occupancy within an office building, basically. And I would presume that gets picked up with Boise Fire and their review if there was never emergency response to this building. Signs. I remember being at the lab at the operations center, and it's obvious that there's a lab there, but I just want to just give me peace of mind that that's all provided for. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Madam President, Commissioner Nielsen, yeah,
Yeah.
everything is going through permitting and Boise
Mhm.
Fire is involved in the review of all the plans. And all the occupancy is tied into the completion of that space as well.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions for Jennifer? All right, thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate
And
that.
I will hand it back over to the director.
So just, Madam President, Commissioners, just a couple small things to note. And honestly, I wouldn't call this small. With our build grants that are ongoing right now, we have officially received environmental approval, which is a big part of the process, especially with any federal grant, especially for the number of segments that we are looking at and working on. We now have official environmental approval for all segments that we've designed. So we'll continue to move forward in finalizing those designs. We have the construction money for one of those packages, and so we're excited to see that be able to move forward. We continue to seek out additional federal grants to build these, but just wanted to highlight the team's great work to get us to this point. Commissioners, you will have a presentation today from Boise Hunter Homes. They're on your agenda for a work session after our regular meeting. We'll also have a work session on our fee schedule. Next week, we will have first budget adjustments. Just to note one item you'll see on next week's budget adjustments in connection with some of our facilities conversations. What I can tell you is we have not exceeded the contracts you've approved. And that's been an important part of this process. In each of those contracts, there has been some level of contingency that we've needed to utilize, but we haven't exceeded. In fact, the contract for the lab was discounted because we had some contingency left over from the other construction. And so we were able to roll that into that piece. And so that just wanted to note that there will be a budget adjustment next week, but that's just truing up for facilities, but that's just truing up to the contracts that have been approved. So no additional funding, just what's been approved previously. Commissioners, just you'll see just a few items next week. There will be a bake sale going on. It's during the day though. So if you want to come and buy any baked goods, we're continuing to do fundraisers for different organizations. We also will have a traffic control and ADA summit coming up on the 27th, which will be discussing with the traffic control companies our new policies related to permitting, as well as talking about continuing to talk about the audible or route information. So continuing to move that forward, but trying to make sure that we have good information out there as we begin implementing those things. With that, Commissioners, I'll stand for any questions on my side.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, two things. Just on the summit, if it hasn't been done, would you invite the members of the ADA Advisory Committee to that? I think that might be informative for them.
Okay.
Interact with the technologies and everything else. I know not all of them were able to go to the demonstration, but that might be a nice thing to do. And then just if you would kind of noodle on, I was thinking, there was such a good meeting yesterday with Eagle, and there was some discussion on the businesses and the business impacts and how is it working, but it made me wonder if it would be beneficial if we would learn to do a more formal post-project evaluation from the businesses and how they thought what went well, what not. And that might be useful information just for the district, but also for future projects when you work in downtown. So just a thought. I don't know if there's budget or time for that, but it could be valuable information. So that's
Look
all.
into that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the director? All right, thanks very much for the
Yeah,
report.
thanks.
And we will be at ease until noon.
6 minutes.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's 12 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. And thank you, everybody joining us in person and online, and please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item is to adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. All consent agenda items are commission action items unless noted. I don't believe we have any requests to move any consent agenda items. Do we have a motion?
Madam President,
Commissioner McKinney.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
There's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. That moves us to the regular agenda. We do not have any items on the regular agenda today, so we'll go right to discussion items and public communications. Do we have anybody in person or online who wish to address the commission?
We have John Crowley.
Okay, John Crowley, come on down to the podium and just state your name and address for the record. And you'll have 3 minutes for your comments.
Hi, I'm John Crowley. I'm at 328 Hillview in Boise. And Commissioner McKinney, Commissioner Nielsen, Commissioner Gold, Commissioner Goldthorpe, and Commissioner Pickering. Good to see you again. As today, when I drove down Chinden and I didn't make a right on Adams, I thought, geez, quite a trip down here. But anyways, nice to be here. I have some slides. I think Stacy. So just a quick thing here. None of this was done by AI, so you can see there's already an error right here. I write public comment, not public communication. My apologies. Next slide, please. I represent the East End Neighborhood Association's Transportation Committee. I'm the lead for that group. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. You can see here at the bottom, there's 5 other members spread throughout the neighborhood. When I first started in this role, I was sort of nominated to it without my permission, but I decided we should have a little mission statement. So right there, safety is our priority, improve safety for walking, cycling, and driving with an emphasis on crossing for pedestrians and cyclists and reducing vehicular speeds. Next slide, please. I want to thank all of ACHD, the staff, as well as the commission for all the work that we've been able to do with you as a group over the years. Some of you were around back in the fall of 21 when we walked on Warm Springs. There was a decision by the ACHD to fund a study. And then that final study report, which Edinson Bautista led that process along with the consultant, HDR, I believe, that report was finalized in the fall. The public involvement process as well as communications were excellent. It really worked out well at this stage so far for our neighborhood, and I hope, down the road, some of these things actually happen. We also, at one period, we had another walkthrough 2 years later on the Jefferson McKinley Franklin corridor. I remember Commissioner Hanson and Commissioner Pickering were there, and I think a couple city council members. There were school principals, there was staff there. Ryan Ed was there, Justin Lucas was there, and a number of other staff members. Following that, I had some communication with Ryan and he said, hey, there's this new sort of thing called rapid implementation. That was done after the chip seal. I don't know Matt, but his name is on there because I think he led that effort. And then cost and sidewalks all through this period with Seth Jarsky. I realize he's at the city now, but he did considerable work with us in our neighborhood There was an actual design sort of ready to go at one point, and then it sort of went backwards, and it took a lot longer, and he did a really great job. So thank you to ACHD for all that. Next slide, please. So some of you may remember I was here to talk about this email and other neighbors who said the same thing. This was in the fall of 24, October 24. There was this idea at the top of Walnut. There's a little bit of a hill. It's not much of a hill, but there's a hill where bicyclists go quite slow. Vehicles are trying to get up to the stop sign at Warm Springs. You can see right in the middle of that larger paragraph. Could we move the center line over? Next slide, please. And here's a look at Walnut. Let's go back to this. Go to the next slide, please. We'll look at a photo. So here's the little hill. You can see the line is moved over more to the right side here. This is looking due north. There's no sidewalk to the right. So cyclists trying to get up this little hill during especially concert nights at the Garden, people trying to avoid traffic on Warm Springs, as well as during what we'll call the late rush hour, 4 to 6 p.m. A lot of vehicles trying to get up to that stop sign, bicyclists trying to ride up there. Let's go back to the map. Previous slide, two back. Yep. So here's Walnut. I'm talking about the section. I don't have a pointer here, but due north is directly north of this photograph of the map. Warm Springs, you can see at the top. At Walnut here, the street that's the first one to the south from Warm Springs, that's Lewis. And so this little hill starts at the bottom of Lewis, goes up about halfway to that block, and then flattens out. There is no sidewalk, as I said, on the right. There's no bike lane on the right. So at that time, it was thought maybe we could repaint the lines. I've heard from neighbors over a number of years and some people in our transportation committee about some other issues they have with Walnut. There are some speed bumps, 3 of them, I believe, further down towards the municipal park there, Kristen Armstrong Park. Some questions from them regard where the speed bumps are placed, because it appears in a couple sections where either people cross the road or where there's a greenbelt spur, right where the W is in Walnut that crosses the road. The speed bumps are in a way where people go over the bump and then they speed up again before the next bump. And then some of that speeding up is right where there's pedestrian or bicycle traffic across the road. This area, if you're not familiar with it, to the left is downtown, to the right is further out towards the botanical garden. The green belt is just to the south out of this photo, is along the river. There's schools just out of the photograph to the north, Roosevelt Elementary, and then down Warm Springs to the right, maybe close to a half mile, is Adams Elementary. There are a number of kids who live in this area who use this block, this last block of Walnut, up to Warm Springs to get on their way to school. So back in 2019, I believe Ryan met with Commissioner Nielsen, myself, and Angie, who I'll introduce in a minute, back in October, and we talked about how at one time there was a scope being done, but the sidewalk didn't go in part because of concerns about historic considerations for that property right up on the corner. So next slide, please. And then the next. Okay, so yeah, that's up at the top. The property I'm talking about that I just mentioned is on the right. You can see the stone wall. No photo of the building. That's really all I have to say in terms of the history of that, what I know about this area. Angie Fuller, one of our residents in the neighborhood, she's going to come up and tell you about an event that happened this fall.
Welcome, Angie. Please just state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Angie Fuller, and I live at 1333 East Holly Street in Boise, 83712. Thank you, Madam President and Commissioners. As I said, my name is Angie Fuller, and I am a Boise native, raising my family, 2 young boys in the East End neighborhood. As you can see from the map that John showed earlier, Walnut is a major thoroughfare for our community. It carries more than 6,000 vehicle trips per day, with significantly higher volumes during the events at Municipal Park, Outlaw Field, and the Botanical Gardens. In short, this is an area where vehicles and people mingle. It's a place where children walk, where families bike, and where neighbors move through our community. And yet there is no continuous sidewalk along the east side of Walnut Street. This missing sidewalk has changed my family's life, and that is why I'm here to share with you today. Can you advance the slide? This is a picture of my adorable 10-year-old son. His name is Stanley. He goes to Adams Elementary School and he comes home from school along Walnut. Not because there's, because there is no sidewalk on our side of the road, he must cross Walnut 3 separate times to reach our neighborhood. Not by choice, not because he's careless, but because the road design leaves him no safer option. Each crossing places him directly in moving traffic. Next slide. Last fall, while crossing Walnut Street, Stanley was struck by a vehicle traveling approximately 30 miles per hour. The driver never saw him. Next picture. He suffered a compound femur fracture and a concussion. Next picture. He was rushed to the hospital, underwent emergency surgery, and missed weeks of school. Sure. Okay. And he continues to recover, enduring months of rehabilitation today. I am standing here as one of the lucky parents, as you all unfortunately know. I'm lucky because my child survived this accident. 5 weeks after his accident was Maura's tragedy. I do not fault the driver who hit my son, and I do not fault my son. This crash happened because humans are humans. Drivers glance away, they experience sun glare, they make mistakes. Kids are small, they are hard to see, and they are still learning how traffic works. As we all know, safe roadway design acknowledges these realities and protects people anyway. Engineering safety does not rely on perfect behavior. It designs streets so that when mistakes occur, they do not automatically result in severe injury or death. Sidewalks, I believe, are a critical part of that system. Thank you, and we request a rapid implementation of a sidewalk in this area to further protect our community, and an overall study along Walnut to review the full scope of what can be done on this very important street. Thank you.
Thanks, Angie and John. Appreciate both of you. Commissioner
Any
Nielsen?
questions?
I just, want to thank both of you for taking the time out, and I'll just reiterate what I conveyed to you, John, that we continue to work together, engage with Bree Brush at the city and Councilmember Stead and her district, and we still have the time where we're collecting input for the beyond the rapid implementation, the 5-year work program, and we need to. And I will work to get this up the priority list with a lot of other needs, but I want to thank you for coming. I think your stories are important for all the commissioners to hear. We can get spreadsheets and lists of scopes and project lists, but it's why we're doing it, that this is the perfect reminder. I'm sorry. I'm glad Stanley's recovering, but I think this is a good reminder of why we do what we do, and that safety is paramount. So thank you.
Thanks for your time. Yeah, I just think for myself going forward, Angie and I talked very little before we did this today, but one conversation we had this morning, or was it yesterday morning? Here's some things, right, we can be coached on, or I can be, in terms of leading the Transportation Committee, is that this is, an area where there's an historic property. There's issues with that, right? And so that's really probably a city thing, right? We probably got to go do just what we did with city council, explain, right? Is there a way, you guys and these guys can coach me on how to deal with the city on that, right? Has there been a situation in the past where ACHD has faced a situation where there's been a historic situation where something's needed to be done? And I'm all ears and willing to work with that, so. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm sure we can, look into it. And also, obviously Councilmember Stead, that being her district, would be a great connection
Sure.
too, and
Yep.
and being able to take that city perspective on this issue as well. But want to echo Commissioner Nielsen, appreciate you all coming. I do think it's important for us all to hear, what's needed and hear your story, and appreciate you coming and sharing today. We obviously can't take any action during public comment, but do really appreciate the, you sharing this with us, and we can take it under consideration as we continue to work on the process. And Commissioner Nielsen, through her work and connections, can probably follow up on those other questions you have. So,
Yep.
Great.
thank you.
Madam President?
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, John, Angie, thanks for coming. I'm very familiar with Walnut, and I used to live on Avenue H when I first moved to Boise, gosh, 15 years ago. So yeah, and I've echo Walnut has just increased in activity, and just really appreciate you guys coming up and telling Stanley's story too. And sorry to hear about that really heartbreaking crash, but that you're helping him along with that healing process. So just again, thank you, John, for your advocacy in this neighborhood as well. And I think just your knowledge and ability to navigate the space and the bureaucracies is such a huge testament to your knowledge and passion for this work, but then also helps us get better as well. So thank you.
I just would like to thank Commissioner Nelson and Ryan Hudd. They met me a few weeks after the accident on site. And I can't tell you how much that meant to me. So thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Beth.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else who wish to speak on public comment on the commission?
Cynthia Gibson.
Hey, Cynthia, welcome. Come on down and state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Cynthia Gibson. I live at 1615 North 11th Street in Boise's North End. And I also sit on the North End Neighborhood Association Board. And I head up our People First Safe Streets Committee. So we're working on street safety. I'm here today to talk to you about a couple things in the neighborhood. I'd like to first begin by thanking the commissioners and staff after that recent fatality of our young neighbor by creating the neighborhood slow zone. Everybody is so appreciative. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the staff also. But we do feel like more could be done. And I know that you are going to be doing some testing to see how effective the posted speed is. So our neighborhood consists of 25 north-south streets, and 7 of those streets are arterials, collectors. They carry a high volume of vehicles. They are they don't have a lot of stop signs. Some have some speed bumps from the 90s, but they are quasi-effective, we feel. But according to the ACHD traffic count data, those 7 streets carry 38,500 vehicles per day. So they do move a lot of cars through our neighborhood, which is very concerning. So several years ago, our neighbors on 13th Street decided to get a petition signed to do some traffic calming on 13th. And the traffic calming that was done on the lower part near North Junior High was great. It was, you put in a nice rapid flash beacon, a painted crosswalks and bulb outs, and it's really nice. On the north side of the street, which is right adjacent to Camel's Back Park, there are bulb outs at Hazel and Bella. And some of us are really concerned about those bulb outs because they don't seem to be very effective in slowing vehicles down. I went out with my tape measure one day and I measured the distance from curb to curb on those bulb outs, and it's 25 feet. So that, using, simple logic, is 12.5-foot travel lanes. And I believe, and many of us in the neighborhood believe, that's why they don't slow vehicles down, because they don't really pinch the street. And when the neighbors asked for traffic calming, that was what ACHD recommended, was bulb outs. So we respectfully request that ACHD consider any additional treatment at these locations so motorists do feel the need to slow down. And our concern is the proposed design on 8th and 9th, and of course, any other future street designs. But our concern is when we have talked to staff at the open houses about the bulb outs that are proposed, because that project is predominantly bulb outs, will they slow vehicles down? And we're concerned that they won't. And we would like to see either those, as the street narrowed significantly where the bulb outs are, or some other sort of treatment put in, like traffic circles or more raised intersections or something else that can be done. So that's my request today, and we would love to partner with you on some of these things. And with that, I'll stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Are there questions for Cynthia? Really appreciate you coming and sharing this. Same thing Commissioner Nielsen said with the last comments. I think it's really important for the commission to hear this feedback and, Dave Rader is over here. I know he's the interim or was the interim project manager for this project, and it's somebody else who's now out of the office on paternity leave. And so maybe connect with Dave after this, and he can help give any insight and take your feedback too as part of the project. Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yes. Have you noticed any increased law enforcement presence there?
We did at first. I haven't noticed any lately, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. I just haven't seen them. They did come and talk to us, and they let us know how many parking tickets that they wrote, which was significant. And I have seen more people getting parking tickets because they parked too close to the curb, which is a huge issue in that neighborhood. I mean, it's just terrible. I can't even, every time I go by the intersection of 12th and Eastman, I just think, how I should take a picture. Every corner is blind. But I don't know about speed. I know they were out there at first, so.
Part of the reason I ask is because of the very recent flood of social media posts regarding our Rose Hill project and the mini roundabout and chicanes and that sort of thing. And I'm sure that subject will come up very quickly. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I don't really know what to say about that, except, are you talking about the one on the bench?
Yeah.
Where the car went through the fence? Does anybody know how fast they were driving when they went through that roundabout?
No, but a lot of the folks, including one legislator, don't seem really to care. They like to point fingers at us.
I think like anything, it's new and people don't know, how to maneuver things, and they don't like it, so they complain.
Agreed.
Commissioner Nielsen.
Yeah, Cynthia, thanks for coming to talk. I think I articulated it in another meeting, but I hate when we just do reactive one-offs. And I know as the district embarks this year on the Southeast Boise, the older neighborhood around Boise State, for example, you've had a lot of people parking too close and similar issues to the north end just due to the history of the neighborhood, how it evolved over time. And that's that kind of really low altitude stuff that I would like, at least for that study, to address, because that's, if not there, then where? And I think similar in the north end, I know that ped bike plan was updated probably less than 5 years ago, but I'd like to encourage the district look at those kind of sub areas and come up with what all is needed. To me, that would be more efficient. And though I wrote down 12th and Eastman, there's probably several other examples there, and maybe come up with kind of a more comprehensive list of those smaller projects and just be done with it. The issues that I found with it kind of opened my eyes were not so much density, but the availability of parking that is within some of the newer projects isn't always readily available to the residents of that project. So they were relying on totally on street parking. And so just that increased demand, people are going to park, we're going to park if it's not red or there's not a sign. So I think as we've grown, we need to pay attention to those details. So thanks for coming and sharing that example. You're not the first person within the last 2 weeks that I've heard those needs for follow-up. And then for Commissioner Goldthorpe, for some reason, I think going back to previous jobs, I'm a member of the North End Facebook group. And every time someone asks a question about enforcement or post something, I haven't seen any enforcement, everybody piles on and said, no, they've been out ticketing. And it just, so that's kind of my indicator that I think they are doing it within, not just at the early stage after the things were implemented, but it's ongoing enforcement by Boise police, which I appreciate. But the neighbors definitely know what's going on there.
Yeah, so there was some outrage when people first got ticketed on those parking situations, and obviously, I didn't take my driver's test recently, but my recollection is, isn't that a question on your driver's test, how far you can park from the curb? I would think, or from the intersection.
Right.
I, for some reason, seem to think that. And so I did remind a couple people that you did take a driver's test, you should know this, and doesn't it make great sense anyway, because you can't see, you complain about it as you try to go through these intersections that you can't see. So, but as far as, law enforcement working on speed, I would love to see the roads designed so that people can't go faster, right? And I had put up my, this results on the speed data for 13th Street, and the posted speed is 20, but the cars were going much faster than that. Stacy, is it possible to put that back up? Oh, whoever did that. My point with that is that that was done about a year ago, and the posted speed is 20. Sorry, I forgot that I was going to talk about this. And what this shows to me, down at the bottom, the 85th percentile is 28. And then the average speed is the average speed 23? 25. The average speed is 25, yet the posted speed is 20. So I'm not an engineer, but when I look at this data, what that says to me is maybe this installation doesn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish, which is to achieve a 20-mile-an-hour speed. So
It's a great exhibit.
I feel like the road should speak to whatever the posted speed is. The two should be married, is how I feel about that, so.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
One last little comment, because you just segued it into it beautifully, has to do with the project we completed some time ago now on Kootenai. The neighborhood absolutely loves it.
I bet.
Everybody who wants to abuse it hates it. And so, and those are the voices that sometimes are the only ones that get heard, are the haters. So, yeah.
I'm envious of Kootenai. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah.
Thank
Regarding the slow zone, there's additional future steps, and then we obviously continue to be in communication with the city. I know they have ideas about kind of long-term for parking at the intersections and things like that. So there are future potential options that we're considering, and then obviously connecting with Dave on the details of the project. And
Great.
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming and talking to us today.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any other public communications? Anybody in person or online? Okay, seeing none, the meeting is adjourned, and we will move to the post-commission agenda. We have 2 work sessions. First up, we've got Boise Hunter Homes Extraordinary Impact Fee presentation. I think we've got Travis Hunter leading that one. Welcome, and come on up to the podium. And hi.
Good afternoon, commissioners. We appreciate your time today. Again, my name is Travis Hunter with Boise Hunter Homes, 923 South Bridgeway Place. We prepared a lot on this presentation to try to best explain the topic at hand. And today I'm going to be talking about the extraordinary impact fee that homes at Dry Creek Ranch pay. You may not be completely versed on it, as it was created well before any of you guys took office. And I assume that no one has brought this topic before you guys, because our Dry Creek Ranch project is largely the remaining project paying this fee. Respectfully, we see this fee as redundant and incredibly inequitable, and I hope this presentation clearly presents the logic behind our perspective. Mr. Head and Mr. Lucas were kind enough to begin the conversation with us a few months ago, and I believe they understood the merit of our concern. Ultimately, they agreed that if there was going to be any changes made to the district policy regarding this issue, that it would need to come before the commission. And so that's how we landed here today. We greatly appreciate the professionalism of these gentlemen. They're fantastic to work with day to day. All right, so this might be redundant, and you guys might already know this, but I'm going to go through basically what is the extraordinary impact fee, why was it created, and when was it created. So The extraordinary impact fee, it's a $4,068 fee per home. That is in addition to the $5,803 ordinary impact fee that you guys recently adjusted. In totality, the homes that are constructed in this extraordinary impact fee zone pay nearly $10,000 to ACHD for impact fees instead of just $5,800. The background conditions that supported the concept of the fee were derived nearly 30 years ago in 1997 and in 1998 in the Boise Foothills Policy Plan and the Boise Interim Foothills Transportation Plan. Ultimately, in 2004, ACHD adopted Resolution number 701, which put this fee into place. So what you guys can see on the map are highlighting the 2 remaining extraordinary impact fee districts in Ada County. These districts were created under the assumptions that the highlighted areas put extraordinary strain on the district and needed extra funding sources to construct improvements that give these regions acceptable levels of service. The smaller one on the southeast there, that's the Warm Springs Mesa District. It's small and it's, I'm going to say 98% completely built out. The larger one that we're talking about is the West Foothills District boundary that it encompasses all of Dry Creek Ranch, Hidden Springs, which is completely built out, and the last phase of Cartwright Ranch. So hopefully these past 3 slides explain the brief history of when the district was formed, why the district was formed, and where it exists. The next slides in the presentation will explain to you guys why the extraordinary impact fee is redundant and then why the fee is inequitable. First, I want to take you through the history of Dry Creek Ranch, the entitlements, and the conditions of approval because they're extremely relevant. So in 2010, Dry Creek Ranch planned community was approved with entitlements for 3,500 homes and 600,000 square feet of commercial, which for reference is about the size of the village at Meridian. In 2016, we purchased Dry Creek Ranch and we re-entitled Dry Creek Ranch, reducing its density to 1,815 homes and to 80,000 square feet of commercial. And that re-entitling adjusted or it reduced traffic counts by over 50%. The conditions of approval in the amended entitlements required Dry Creek Ranch to fund and construct all of the mitigating regional traffic improvements needed to bring the community and the surrounding regional roadways to ACHD and ITD's desired service levels. Both ACHD and ITD gave us monumental conditions of approval, improving regional roadways, which totaled $19,305,669. These conditions of approval happen to include the same improvements that the fee is cited for example, Brookside Lane and Dry Creek Road. In light of Dry Creek Ranch's conditions of approval, the fee is redundant or double dipping. In this slide, you can see the total of our regional roadway improvements, not the ones that serve our houses, and it adds up to $19.3 million. I'm going to walk you through each one of them in an exhibit to explain what we've done and what we're continuing to do out there and who required it. So number 1, the blue line on the map. We have and are continuing to reconstruct Brookside Lane all the way from Highway 55 to the boundary of Hidden Springs. This portion of Brookside Lane, or the portion of Brookside Lane that existed prior, was a 2-lane rural road, which we are required to bring to an arterial standard with bike lanes, curb, gutter, sidewalk, landscaping, and drainage facilities. The total is $5.2 million, and this was an ACHD condition of approval. The orange line on the map, we have and are continuing to reconstruct Dry Creek Road all the way from Highway 55 to the intersection of Quail Valley Road, also known as Brookside Lane. The portion of Dry Creek Road that existed prior was a windy 2-lane rural road that you may be familiar with, which we're required again to bring to an arterial standard with bike lanes, curb, gutter, sidewalk, landscaping, and drainage facilities. This total is $2.7 million, and this was an ACHD condition of approval. Number 3, the pink line, we have completely constructed. It's North Spring Creek Lane, and it gave our residents as well as our neighbors to the north a direct link to Dry Creek Road without having to access Highway 55. This cost $827,000. This was an ACHD condition of approval. Number 4, the green triangle on the map. This was a bridge we constructed over the waterway of Dry Creek, which facilitated the prior stated improvement of Spring Creek Lane. This cost $1 million and was an ACHD condition of approval. Number 5, the red triangle on the map. This is a second bridge across the creek, which we are building this year and will facilitate the connection of Brookside Lane from Highway 55 to the boundary of Hidden Springs. This will cost us $2 million and is a condition of approval. The purple rectangle, this was a signalized intersection called a green T that was built on Highway 55 and Dry Creek Road. This cost us $3.5 million and is a joint facility of ACHD and ITD. As ACHD actually operates the traffic signal, when we constructed this regional traffic improvement, ACHD required that we trench and lay fiber for nearly 1.4 miles in order to connect the traffic signal at Beacon Light to the south to this one, and then all the way up north to the Brookside Lane traffic signal. The fiber that ACHD required and the hardware installation to operate the signal cost us $919,000. It's not a number on this page. It's a component of the 3.5. And it was not eligible for any reimbursement from the extraordinary impact fees. This will be one of my requests later that I will get to. The green rectangle, this was a traffic signal that we installed on Brookside Lane. This cost us $820,000 and was a joint ACHD and ITD project, and it satisfied an ITD condition of approval. Finally, the yellow line, this is what we were paying to widen Highway 55 from 2 lanes to 4 lanes for approximately 1.4 miles. This cost us $3.1 million and was an ITD condition of approval. In summary, the regional traffic improvements that we are making are not to internal roadways with houses fronting on them. They are regional improvements tied to conditions of approval, and they are funded directly from Boise Hunter Homes. We did not utilize CID funds like other planned communities such as Valnova or Avamore in the area. All these funds actually come straight from us. So these mitigate the regional traffic concerns before the use of any extraordinary impact fees. These regional traffic conditions of approval make the extraordinary impact fee redundant. So getting on to another topic that's an element within the extraordinary impact fee. So within the extraordinary impact fee language, there's a process called a cooperative development agreement. The cooperative development agreements are designed to reimburse developers when they construct regional traffic improvements on behalf of ACHD, and the funds come out of the bucket of the extraordinary impact fees collected from the developer. However, the language described in this cooperative development agreement was precisely written in a way where the developer is only able to recover 30% of what it actually costs to construct the facility to ACHD's required standard. Specifically, they only reimburse you for what it would have cost to build a road to the standard of a 2-lane rural road. The reimbursements specifically exclude reimbursements for ACHD drainage facilities, bike lanes, the totality of the subbase, the totality of the paving, curb, gutter, sidewalk, the mow strips between the curb and the sidewalk, and street lights. Again, we are only reimbursed for 30% of the actual cost of what we were required to build by ACHD, and I would like to pose the question, why? In order to visually understand the concept I just explained to you, we have created an illustration that explains what is reimbursed and what is not. This isn't to scale. We just made this in the office yesterday. So everything in black is what the CDA reimburses for. Essentially, it's just the pavement and the subbase for the 2-lane rural road. Everything in red is what is not reimbursed, even though it is required by ACHD. This includes portions of the subbase, portion of the pavement, bike lanes, all of the curb and gutter, the street lights, all of the mow strip, all of the sidewalk, and all of the drainage facilities. This next slide is our most recent example of a CDA that we were reimbursed for. As you can see, we spent $1,293,000 to build this road section to ACHD standards, and we were only reimbursed for $384,000, 30% of the cost. To understand the current state of the impact fees, or the extraordinary impact fees that are paid by each home at Dry Creek Ranch, I'm stating again what I stated prior. So each home pays their newly adjusted $5,800 for their ordinary impact fee, then that pays the extraordinary impact fee of approximately $4,000, total nearly $10,000 per home. To date, we've paid $2.6 million in only extraordinary impact fees alone. To date, we have only been eligible to receive reimbursements for $694,000. And to our knowledge, and we're open to being corrected, but we are the only party constructing regional road improvements surrounding Dry Creek. We don't believe it's been the district. Hence, we as the developer have overpaid $1.9 million in impact fees. Last, I'm going to bring up, in our opinion, it's the proverbial elephant in the room, the geographic inequity in these fees. So we are not naive, and we don't expect that we will get to develop and build houses in a world free from taxes, conditions of approval, or ordinary impact fees. However, we do have the rational expectation that any governing agency would treat the private sector with fairness, using logical rationale to enforce their authority. The geographical inequity in these fees are extreme, and competing developments, even projects that are farther removed from the urban core, and have more traffic impacts than Dry Creek Ranch, such as Avamore, Sage Hill, Valnova, Bella Rosa, and Shadow Valley Estates, do not have to pay these fees because and I think the reason why is because in 1997 and 1998, when this concept was originated, development that far out wasn't contemplated. Essentially, we're the last project substantially paying these fees, and it puts us at a competitive disadvantage. And again, I'll ask the question, why? So this is just a vicinity map that illustrates my point. So Dry Creek Ranch is in green on the southeast corner of the map. It's closest to the urban core. The teal color directly to our west is a proposed project literally across Highway 55 that will not have to pay the fees, but they will utilize the infrastructure that we put in. The pink to our north is Shadow Valley Estates, who is further than town from us, and they will be piggybacking off of our traffic signals and regional roadway improvements. They're not paying the fees. Avamore in purple to the north is a project that's 10 times larger than us, is further from the urban core, and literally has to drive through our project to get to town, and they do not pay the fees. In red is Sage Hill, recently approved with the same background conditions as Avamore, who will drive through our project, and they do not have to pay the fees. Finally, Valnova in orange, they're further from the core than us. They're substantially larger than us. They're a planned community like us, and they do not have to pay the fees. So in conclusion, here's our 4 points. 1, the extraordinary impact fee was formed over 2 decades ago with groundwork and assumptions that were laid 3 decades ago. It did not contemplate, very importantly, the conditions of approval that Dry Creek Ranch was actually given when it was approved. Number 3, the reimbursement policy is minimal and does not reflect the scope of work required for us to construct by ACHD. And number 4, there's extreme geographic inequity that puts us at a competitive disadvantage. So lastly, I'm going to get to our asks. And I know this isn't a forum where you guys are voting on, but this is our position, what we are formally asking you guys to consider. So number 1, eliminate any future West Foothills overlay extraordinary impact fees to be paid. Number 2, we are asking that you reimburse us for $1,054,807 it cost to connect the 3 ACHD operated traffic signals on Highway 55 with fiber and the cost of the installation of the traffic signal hardware at Dry Creek Road and Brookside Lane. When the extraordinary impact fee agreement was written, it did not contemplate the concept of ACHD traffic signals connected with fiber, but this project certainly reflects the spirit of a cooperative development agreement. Regional traffic improvements by a developer built and utilized for ACHD. And then lastly, number 3, we ask that you would widen the scope of work that is eligible under the cooperative development agreements to include the total cost of the regional traffic improvements we're making that's required by you guys, until we have recouped all the money that we've paid in extraordinary impact fees. And so again, I know that it's not you guys that adopted, it's not the current commission that adopted these impact fees. And I know that's likely that you've never had these fees brought before you for discussion, as Dry Creek Ranch is substantially the last project paying these fees. We're asking you to take action considering our request. And again, I'm grateful to have a commission that's willing to hear our perspective as private parties and consider all the relevant facts. And with that, I'm more than happy to stand for any questions.
Thanks, Travis. Are there questions for Travis?
Madam
Commissioner
President?
Pickering?
Yeah, Travis, thank you for that thorough and great presentation. I do have questions for staff, and then I have questions for you. Madam President, do you mind if I just go?
I think we should limit it to questions for Travis right now. There will be an opportunity for us to follow up with a work session with our staff to get a lot of those questions for them
The
answered.
questions for staff are very like high level
Okay.
that are really important, I think, to the conversation, if that's okay. Ryan or Justin, so especially considering that me and the rest of the commission haven't been here back in 1996. So could you give some insight, Ryan, of like when these zones were created? Were others created in the past, and did those sunset?
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, the one that was noted for the Warm Springs Mesa was also created at that time. I don't believe that there's been any that have sunsetted.
There was one.
Maybe we'll let Christie, who's
Oh,
the
okay.
impact fee
Yeah.
administrator and handling this for a
Yeah.
more extended period.
Thank you.
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, so we had 3 extraordinary impact fee overlay zones during that time. One was the Warm Springs Mesa, which still exists today.
Mhm.
That was for the construction of Windsong Drive. And so we reimbursed that developer every quarter. We're just about done with that commitment. We had a Magic View extraordinary overlay fee. The signal at Magic View and Eagle Road, and some improvements there. That one, as soon as we paid back those fees, that was zeroed out. And then that leaves us with the Western Foothills overlay zone.
Okay. Thanks, Christy. That's helpful. So I guess back to you, Travis. So you guys purchased Dry Creek after, when this overlay zone was already created. I'm just curious, I totally understand your argument, but why come to us now? And you knew that there was already this extraordinary impact fee. So I just want to kind of understand your rationale and like in the timing.
Yeah. Well, to be frank, we actually came to staff about 3 or 4 years ago
Okay.
and brought up this topic. From day one, we knew it wasn't equitable in our opinion. And it just got backburnered, never went anywhere.
Okay. And then my last question, more of a comment really. So I really appreciated your request, those 3 pieces. I'll just be really honest. I think like the technical aspects of the CDA and the reimbursements, I think I really lean on the staff to really be able to articulate what is consistent and important as it relates to the entire network. But also I just want to flag, I love that you shared all the other planned communities across the county and like their impact on the infrastructure that you're building. I'm highly sensitive to that. But I think generally speaking, it's hard to pencil that the infrastructure that you're building that we will be then taking over and maintaining forever is going to be, facilitated and supported by the tax base that you guys are essentially just creating and bringing online. Like that doesn't math. And
Yeah.
so I think like from a math perspective, I'm just thinking that's the one that's giving me pause in particular.
Yeah, well, Thank you, Madam President and Commissioner Pickering's. My understanding of impact fees is they're not for maintenance. They're for capital improvements. And we're required to put all of those in via conditions of approval.
But the difference is with the CDA, that's reimbursing you guys for building new infrastructure that is going to be essential for connecting your residential properties and plugging into the infrastructure. Right? So my point is generally we have to, you're right, like the impact fees are paying for the new growth, but we still have to maintain all of that infrastructure in perpetuity. So anyway, maybe that's just more that we can talk with it. We can explore that a little bit more, but I think that one in particular is giving me some pause, but that's the end of my questions, Madam President.
Commissioner Nelson.
Yeah, thanks, Travis, for coming. I've taken this as an opportunity to develop my subject matter expertise in this little area of impact fees. And I did a lot of research on the history just of the extraordinary impact fees in the district, what I could find with. I think it would be helpful. The one thing that concerns me just as I try to keep impact fees as boring as possible because they should be. They should be really transparent. They should be based on project list. And I'd like us to have a future work session on whether the last time the project list was updated was 2018 for this extraordinary impact fee district. I think it would be helpful to know what's been done, and I think probably isn't going to make you feel better, but we have an impact fee. We have an extraordinary impact fee. You have conditions of approval through your entitlements, I assume at Ada County. And then you have a CDA. And I think I like matrices of like what's being done under each category. They shouldn't overlap. There shouldn't be redundancy. And it should be that clear. And I don't know that anyone's made that effort, but I think that would be a helpful exhibit to just put it on paper, why you have to do everything you have to do. And I would want to make sure that there isn't an overlap because there shouldn't be. They each have their own reason for being, and, when I look at the map of, I don't want to hear unfair, or putting your business at an unfair advantage, but I look at the others, planned communities or larger developments that aren't really around an existing road network. They're mostly greenfield. Whereas even though it's Dry Creek Ranch, there's a few, roads that your project impacts real directly versus those others. It's still, that's to me where the differences come in. But regardless, it should be, all of those silos should represent and explain all of the work you're being done and then what should be appropriately reimbursed. So I think this is probably the most complicated one I've been aware of, but I think going forward, as we have more of these type of projects, I would want to see that. But my immediate need would want to see that 2018 project list because I struggle. Similar with the recent update to the CIP, we found that a lot of those project costs were lower than they are today. So it may not, be careful what you wish for. The updated math, I don't know what that number would be, but I think 8 years is too long to go without updating that project list. So I would hope to see additional work session with staff to kind of get this all up to 2026 needs and then reflect the work that you all have done.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Nelson, may I
Yeah.
respond to 2 points?
Sure.
So the first one of thinking that there's other planned communities or just larger developments in the area that they have their own unique set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Avamore literally has further length of I'm going to say most of those that I showed you have a further length of travel and they literally drive straight to the heart of our project and then have down 55 right to the stoplights that we installed.
Yeah.
They have the exact same impact we have plus more. So
You're talking about tripling versus, I'm talking about road segments that are right there. that need
Yeah,
updating. Yeah.
and
yeah.
and if, right, and if their residents are driving anywhere to town that our residents are driving, they'll have the same choices A, B, and C once they have traveled their first additional trip length and then got to our project. So I don't see the equity specifically in that concept. And then I was just clarifying the second point that you made, which I think is we're speaking the same language here.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be redundancy and everything should fit in a.
Right.
Well, first of all, we think that there's a fairness issue just based on who's paying it, who's not. But if you put that aside, there should not be redundancy in what we're required to do in conditions of approval that bring it to the level of service that you guys and ITD thought was acceptable. That we're already doing that via conditions of approval, and then we're paying ACHD extraordinary impact fees on top of it. That's where we see the redundancy.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Yeah, it looks as though we're going to have another work session on this, and in order to be fair, I would request that when that happens, that we have available to us so that we can refer back to this. Everything that Mr. Hunter has said in his presentation, including the graphs and numbers and projects. I'm just a simple guy.
And we
I'm not much of a subject matter at anything except for ciphering, and I can do a lot of this in my head. And I am very, very concerned about being fair. I understand what you're saying about paying for the infrastructure twice. I understand what you're saying because of the huge increases in the size and scope of developments around you, that you're accommodating that for them, and that you've accommodated infrastructure improvements, a long ways from where Dry Creek is. So I really want to see this thrashed out, if that's the right term. And I really want to see this made fair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner McKinney, do you have any?
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to draw this out. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate the information and your concerns. And I think that the consensus here, basically to put a point on it, is that it looks like this is a situation that ought to be responded to. I'd like to see staff's response to each of the points and concerns you brought up. And it raises basically a policy question and might implicate some legal questions as well. And so those are things we certainly ought to consider and ought to discuss in detail in a further meeting. I don't know that we're not in a position really to do that here, but I think that's worth considering in detail. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And Commissioner McKinney and Commissioner Goldthorpe, we have hard copies of the presentation for you guys as well, and digital copies, so you could take them with you.
Just going to ask about that. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having a copy of your presentation will be helpful as we, continue to consider this issue. And we will definitely have another work session where staff kind of gives us the background and is able to answer questions from the staff perspective for us. I know there's history and different mechanisms and agreements and things at play here. So it's, important for us to get that understanding, and appreciate you coming and sharing this with us today. And we will continue to work on this as we have other work sessions, and continue to, just consider this that you've presented. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us to our second work session for today, which is the Development Services Fee Schedule Update. Christy Little.
Oh, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam President, Commissioners. Christy Little, Development Services Manager. So I think I'll start, first of all, I'm super excited about this. This has been a long time in the works, and our team has worked really hard. But just as a reminder, my department, we're very unique. We have 52 outstanding team members that serve the development and contracting communities. We provide services to the land use agencies in the review of development applications, and then also, the review of civil plans and permits to work in the right of way. As a reminder, any work that occurs in the ACHD right-of-way that's not funded by ACHD, all of that permitting and inspection goes through development services. We're the only department in the district that generates revenue. The last 3 years, we've averaged $5 million in revenue. I'm going to put a little asterisk there. Our right-of-way department charges fees for license agreements and vacations and such, but otherwise it's development services. We have 5 distinct sections in our department. So just as a reminder, we've got a current planning group reviewing the development applications, plan review with our engineering technicians, impact fees, permitting and traffic control, and then inspection. And within inspection, we have 5 different groups: subdivision zones, ADA, bridge, and fiber. So when I told Steve that we needed to update our fee table, he told me to hold on and let's do this the right way. So the legal department hired Red Oaks Consulting, and this study was led by Ann Westcott. You may be familiar with Ann. She's done a lot of fee studies and impact fee studies for municipalities around the state. The purpose of the study, just as a reminder, is that ACHD can collect fees for services, but we can't collect fees in excess or for a profit. So going back to at least 1999, when I started working here, we'd never hired a consultant to do a fee study. Prior fee schedule adjustments through my career were calculated using, basic data from specific tasks, and small updates were adopted over the years just off of our standard timesheets and how we coded our time. The most recent fee schedule updates were in the early 2020s. Those were specifically to include new processes like small cells and fiber installation. Since we have an up-to-date baseline now that we're presenting to you, staff is recommending moving forward that we do an internal audit every 2 years to evaluate our fees and make adjustments as necessary to avoid these really big fee increases. And then best practice is probably to hire a consultant every 10 years or so, or earlier if there's a major shift in development activity, either way. So the purpose of this fee study was to identify whether current development services fees are set at levels that correlate to actual costs, identify whether taxpayers are subsidizing services that benefit specific users and to what amount. The study concluded that the current fee schedule is under recovering at least $2 million per year for costs that should be associated to the development and contracting community. For clarity, though, with this study, only development services team member data was analyzed. We also rely on other departments like safety engineering to assist with signing and striping plans, signal plans, congestion management. We rely on them for assistance with traffic study review and permitting. And we do a lot of work with traffic operations as well. So this study only looked at development services team members and was not inclusive of other departments. So for today's presentation, I'm not going to go through that handout I gave you line by line, unless you really want to, but I do want to highlight some of the fee areas. So we'll start with our planning review, which is our current planning and the review of development applications. This proposed fee schedule that I have provided you in all categories shows the current fee, the amount outlined in the fee study that could be allowed, and then staff's recommendation. You'll see that staff has not recommended, as required, that we increase any fee above what was reflected in the study. We tried to stick to round numbers, and we had to use a lot of judgment in areas where the sample size was small or not captured in the right spot. Our team does a lot of different tasks that overlap and intertwine, and so it was difficult for the consultant to get all of the fees in the right spot for each task. The NA in some of the categories means the study may have categorized something differently, or again, there just wasn't enough relevant data. So historically, and based on prior decisions of the commission, we have not charged fees for the review of development applications. We review the applications generally as a service to our partner agencies, and that's the policy direction that that we've continued with and are continuing with this fee update. We do, though, in this section, charge fees for the review of traffic impact studies associated with the new developments. For large studies, we typically spend several hours reviewing the first submittal, which isn't at all captured in these costs. But again, we see that it's part of the development application process. After the first submittal, we provide comments back to the engineer. And then oftentimes there will be another 2 to 3 submittals before staff deems that the study is complete and accurate. So you can see that we've suggested increasing the fee in all categories. The big one here is the traffic impact study review, the additional review. By increasing that fee, we're really hoping that we get some really solid data in the first submittal so that we're doing less quality control. If you have any questions, please stop me as I'm moving through these.
Commissioner Goldthorpe.
Before I forget, I'm all about having this particular department pay for itself. I think I've said that more than once over the years. On the requests for appeals, variances, waivers, and reconsiderations, I think there needs to be a some method of, I mean, we'll charge these fees, but if these things are requested and the party who makes the request prevails, I think they ought to have those fees refunded.
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, thank you. I might point out that you've seen 0 in the last couple of years. All right, moving on to our development review. So again, this is the civil plan and plat review after the entitlement process. This part of the process is very technical and very crucial. If improvements aren't designed properly, we can run into major grading and drainage problems that in the long run lead to costs that have to be covered by the taxpayers. So we want to ensure that the improvements are being designed properly. Over the last several years, though, unfortunately, and you've heard this, we've talked about it, the quality of plans has decreased that have been submitted to us. And so our team has to spend more time correcting errors than actually reviewing the plans for conformance. So this has really slowed a very critical and time-sensitive step in the overall development process. And everyone in the process is sensitive to it. This is the process, our part of the process that faces the most criticism from the development community from a time perspective. So we are recommending some significant increases in this section, but we're hesitant to recommend the fee study cost in some cases, mostly due to the sticker shock and what we thought was fair. We have had people ask if there will be improved service. You're increasing fees, or your service is going to improve? Well, I can't answer that question directly. I think, we've seen that it's easier to justify new positions, to Commissioner Goldthorpe's point, if the taxpayers aren't paying for them. But also, just a reminder that we've been under collecting for quite some time. So we hope by doubling the additional plan and plat review fees that we'll get higher quality submittals from the get-go that will require less review time, which in turn should shorten the plan and plat review process, right? That's the hope. So we have increased fees in all of these areas, or proposing to increase fees. Again, focusing on those additional plan review fees after the first 2 submittals, doubling those from $750 to $1,500 in both the plan and plat fees.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, thank you, Christy, for highlighting the plat and the plan review fee piece of this. With your consultant, do they review other similar structures with municipal governments that handle transportation? Could you give me a little backstory before I ask my follow-up question?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, we're very difficult to make comparisons with.
Yeah.
So there was an attempt, but we are not an agency that can clearly do that.
But do they normally, though, work in those spaces as well?
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess my question, because this is such an important piece to the development community, has there been other models or cases this consultant has initiated or even researched around an incentive fee structure? Like when there isn't when folks do submit it and there aren't those errors, right, that fee is reduced because of the staff time being reduced. Is there any instance of that model being anywhere?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, we didn't have that discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Thanks, Christy. I've had to have some come to Jesus meetings with certain firms that, because in my experience, and I'll speak to working for Canyon County with 4 highway districts in 2 cities, and all trying to work together so our applicants aren't, ping-ponged around. But those plat checklists were really important to go through the initial scan. Do we have like a checklist? And then the second part, I don't know, does Ada County surveyor, do they do annual training on plats like they used to? Is that a thing, or is that one reason, if they're not, why we're seeing errors?
Madam President, Commissioner Nielsen, we do have a plat checklist.
Yeah.
So we won't begin a review if they haven't submitted the hydrology reports and everything. But what we're really finding is the technical components just aren't, we don't have, elevations aren't correct in the plans, and just basic information just
Right.
isn't, it's not there. And a lot of it's that we have a lot of new engineers in our community, and they're learning, but really our staff is spending a lot of time hand-holding and reviewing plans that should be of much better quality when they're submitted.
Here's the follow-up. I think when I had particularly a lot of concerns sometimes came to me from the land records at the county assessor. So that might be another partner to look if there's errors that are affecting the assessor's work in terms of creating new parcels and having the the lot dimensions correct and the survey aspect of the plat correct, elevations, all the rest of it, then that might be someone we partner with to, or just inquire on what issues are they seeing. So.
Good idea. Thank you.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yeah, Christy, do we have a process to fast track the applications that are of the highest quality consistently?
Madam President, Commissioner Goldthorpe, we don't. We typically get 70 to 80 on average new plan submittals every month. And we're processing them in the order. It really varies, but if in the order they're received, but depending on what part of the process they're in, if it's their 3rd submittal or their 1st submittal, we do screen out the projects that, have been submitted and complete. If we get into a review and we've already got 20 comments and we're only on the 1st page, we kick that back.
I just remember when I was first running for office, and a particular developer who I shall not mention told me that he was paying about $60,000 a year for someone just to make sure that their applications were correct. And I thought that was a little ridiculous until I got sitting in this position long enough to know that he was a genius. And so I think those guys need to be rewarded somehow.
So for permitting, the review of temporary traffic control plans was in a different department until a couple of years ago, and our permitting's kind of bounced around. So we are proposing to introduce traffic control review fees. Again, these are just new because they're new to our department. But as you know, temporary traffic control is critical for the safe movement of pedestrians and bicycles and vehicles through and around construction zones. And so we do have a team dedicated to temporary traffic control review. And then after the traffic control has been approved, we issue a permit to work in the right of way. And we assess that fee based on roadway classification. I'll be honest with you, and I think the current fee is probably the same fee we had 20 years ago. Because our fees are so low, though, we don't have any incentive for the contractors to get in and out. So maybe they're going to pull off on a bigger job, or go do something else while we've got the work still, or the traffic control still in place. So the proposed fee is it's big, but we hope that it will eliminate the practice of contractors getting into our right of way and then stopping work while leaving a road closed or while leaving up temporary traffic control. And I'm finally finish up with penalties. So penalties were not included or evaluated as part of the fee study because they're different than a fee. But this area is really important to our team. Our inspectors have a really difficult time with enforcement in some of these categories because our fees in the grand scheme of things are just pennies. Oh, you're working in the right of way without a permit, here's your $500, like not a big deal, and they move on. Same with temporary traffic control that hasn't been implemented at all or incorrectly. So we hope to curb some of these activities by imposing that heftier fee. You can see working without a permit, it's increasing substantially, but this is a particular area of really big concern, and it's really important to the safety of our community.
Commissioner Goldberg.
Yeah, looking at the unacceptable debris or material on construction site within our right of way. Amazing how just this morning when I left my home to come here and drove down the hill through about 8 inches of dirt and mud from a development to the east. And man, I hear about whether it's cow manure on the road in front of a big dairy or mud because they don't have the metal piece of carpet or whatever it is that knocks the dirt and mud off of tires. I think you could increase that one a lot more before I started to be the least bit upset.
Thank you. I did just want to quickly review, the fees don't include a whole list of other activities that are done through the department. Overweight load permits that we do in conjunction with ITD. We do traffic impact study scoping, but that wasn't included in the traffic impact study review. We prepare legal descriptions for easements. Nearly every plan and plat review has easements, multiple easements. Corridor preservation, this is where we're purchasing right of way as new development comes along, arterials. All of our department operates through our Trackit software, and the administration of that software occurs within development services. We don't charge fees for that, or those fees. That time wasn't included into the fee study. And then again, the review of preliminary plats, annexations, rezones, conditional use permits. So next steps. Today, I'm just asking you for a head nod. I'd like to get this out for public review and comment. If possible, I would look for that comment period to go through the end of March, potentially with a public hearing for adoption on April 8th. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Madam President.
Commissioner Pickering.
Yeah, thank you, Christy, for your work on this and the work that you do every day with your team. My question is just basically like the math. So, I mean, it showed that we were under recovering 2 million. Do you anticipate this new and proposed fee structure to get us back to that 2 million mark, or are we still going to be behind? Kind of what's your sense if we implement as you've described today? Are we 80% there, 90% there? What's your thought?
Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, I can't give you that exact calculation. Will it get us closer? Yes. Are we looking at probably 75%? That would be my just off the cuff guess.
Because I think that would be really helpful. Because I'm also, cognizant of, fee increases, right? And that's just kind of the vibe these days right now. And so just getting a sense of if it's 75%, I think that tells a deeper story of how much further we can and could go, but we're not going, right? Because we're being sensitive to that increase over time. But would appreciate any other suggestions, especially through the comment period, around how we can phase this in, if there are meaningful ways to do that in certain line items in your mind.
Yeah, Madam President, Commissioner Pickering, I appreciate that and know that our team has spent a lot of time on this, and we were very cognizant of what's practical for our community.
Mhm.
We'd like to be here, but probably we're not going to get there in all cases.
Okay. And then could you give me just some clarity? So the last time we adopted this pay structure was when?
So it's unclear because we've adopted it in baby steps along the way. So
With like pieces, like
with
parts and
pieces,
pieces.
right.
Interesting.
So 2018 is probably when we saw the last overall major increase. And then 2020, 21, 22 is when we had small cell and we might have updated a couple other little things. 22, 23, we had fiber and maybe we updated a couple more little things. But from a comprehensive approach, we're going on a lot of years.
Wow. Thank you.
Commissioner Nielsen?
Yeah, thanks, Christy, for the overview. Now, one thing that jumps off the page to me that's minor, but I'd want to make sure that if we haven't already engaged with the Commercial Developers Advisory Committee, but the permit, the temporary permits for a local street where you might have a block party, boy, going from 30 to 100 might be a killer. So I only have one city in my jurisdiction. They have a block party trailer and it's fun. And so I kind of want to make sure they're not, that's not going to be a chilling effect on neighborhoods having their parties over the summer or something. That's a one I'd want to maybe rethink to 50 or something, but if that's the cost, I just think a local streets just shouldn't have a lot to it. You know what I mean? No issues with the arterial or the collector, but I'd hate to have that be a hindrance for those smaller neighborhood groups. I guess the other piece of it is and I don't expect an answer right now, but I've done this on my own for my own jurisdiction because I was kind of like Commissioner Goldthorpe. I'm not happy when the taxpayers have to subsidize this function of government. It should be self-supporting. And do we have the math that shows what we currently budget and pay for versus the revenue? Sometimes it's not easy to pull together because I think that's the first question to our customers is that we're trying to at least cover their cost, that fairness issue. Anyway, so even though we're 2 million, we're not, but how does that relate to what we're currently, our expenses for these functions? That's all.
Madam President, Commissioner Nielsen, I'll start with that one first.
Yeah.
And yes, that was the very base information utilized by the consultant.
Okay, I'll read the whole report. Thanks for providing it. Yeah.
With regard to the block parties, that is, that's certainly a policy decision by the
Yeah.
commission. Just from a time standpoint, the number of people that we have a permit tech and a traffic analyst and an inspector that all touch that type of permit.
Mhm.
So $100 doesn't come anywhere near recouping
Yeah.
those fees. Oh, 50. Yeah.
Oh, please
Thank you.
get the number.
So we tried, again, we tried to be cognizant of what the public is doing and who is doing it, but certainly looking for that policy feedback from all of you.
Commissioner Goldthorpe?
Yes, as the representative of Father Time here on the commission, I would make a comment to give a little historical perspective to some of this. I don't know which of those 3 periods of time that we increased the fees a little bit. 2018 probably, when you and Gary came to us and said, hey, this is a problem. The development community doesn't like how long their applications take to go through. We need some more employees to make this speed up. And you got it, and it did, and it was great. And I will tell you that one of our bigger developers in this county made the mistake of deciding to go to another county immediately to the west of us to do a project. And it took him 4 years to get his applications through. And he's one of our better customers. And so he's back here permanently now. So, congratulations to everything that you do.
Yeah.
And I just look forward to that reputation of ours being able to continue.
That's our goal.
Commissioner McKinney, did you have any comments or any other?
I'll send my comments offline. They're pretty basic, but I've got a couple of spots in here that I'll just send some comments to you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? And I think you probably have a general head nod from us on moving forward. So thank you, Christy. Appreciate your work on this and every day. All right, that is all for us today. And so we will see everybody back here next week. Thank you.